And I figured since we're such big givers going through these lists of 100 things for our viewers, we're really good people. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
I would say we're excellent people. Probably, I would say our capacity for giving is one of our best qualities, right under humility.
Yep. I'd say, yeah. And then sheer awesomeness is in there somewhere, but digress. And we're never wrong. So the opinions expressed here are 100% right. But if you want to try in the comments to tell us where we're wrong, we'll listen, sort of. So, but
Just keep in
actually,
mind we are unfallible.
that's right. We're duo popes. But anyway, um, so we're doing another list show. This we had done worst album covers, which was a horror show. They were some pretty horrible ones. Rolling Stone has also done the 100 greatest album covers. So we're gonna work our way through the list. Since there's 100, and since I'm getting on in years, we're gonna break it up into three shows, evenly spaced, sort of 33, 33, and 34. So the big finish. We'll add the number one to that. So we'll do that one that way. So 100 through 68 tonight. We will be going through and helping Rolling Stone understand where they were right and where they were wrong, and then also sharing some of our thoughts of great album covers as well. So
Yeah, we're like teachers marking their work.
yeah, too bad we don't have a red pen. Kind of go, but I don't know how to pull that off yet from a video editing perspective. So we'll just
We can't do that old-timey sportscaster thing where they wrote all over the screen.
telestrator. Nope. Yeah, so we'll have to tell us straight with our minds. This first one will be fairly easy, so we just get right
First off,
up to it.
I gotta throw in there. That sounds like a weird like concept album from a prog band. Tell us straight with your mind.
Could have been a Blue Oyster Cult song. um, Spinal Tap, Smell the Glove, Infamous, uh, Very More Black. You couldn't get Very More Black. Uh, I do like the description of it as a mirror. I think that's pretty accurate. I'm sure everybody who's watching us has watched Spinal Tap. Um, this whole sequence of them explaining what the cover was and them really not getting that cover might not resonate. And so ending up with this one was just hilarious. So if you haven't watched Spinal Tap, you need to. If you have watched it, go watch it again. The scene's great. I have no argument with this being on the top 100. I think it's a fine, fine choice. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think just the plain black cover works.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of the White Album, but better.
I would say even not if you haven't seen the movie and you don't know the fictional backstory of it, it would still grab your attention if you saw this on a rack and it was just an all black album cover. I would want to know what this was.
So you're one for one, Rolling Stone. Congratulations. Grateful Dead, number 99, Grateful Dead, Europe 72. I'll let you start off with your thoughts on this
They were one for one.
one.
So I don't like Grateful Dead. And I know I shouldn't let that influence my opinion of best album covers. But as we get on in this list, I will point out that I think context of certain albums has influenced their opinion on this because I think there's albums that are included because they're huge, iconic, important albums, but maybe the album covers don't really live up. And there's albums I think were included because they're more recent and they're trying to make it relevant for younger audiences as well. I think none of that applies to Grateful Dead. I don't think any of the music is classic. I don't think their artwork is especially fantastic. They have an excellent logo, and that's not even on the cover of this. So as far as I'm concerned, they squandered the one thing they had going for them.
So I'm mixed on this one in that I don't find it to be a pleasant cover. I don't find it to be an album cover that would make me stop and say, "Let me see more." I do I do think we need to, we're judging these on the artistic merits of the cover, not the quality of the, what we think about the quality of the music behind it. I say that with great assurance, and then I'm a homer for bands that I like that show up on here and go, yeah, that's a great cover. I love that cover. It's really good. I think we got one or two of those in this list so far. Um, so I'm not a big Grateful Dead fan myself, but yeah, I find this one a little bit off-putting as well, just on a lot of levels. The check shirt really bothers me, hurts my eyes. So we'll give him one for two on that. Definitely not a greatest. I'd say okay, but not greatest. Little Yachty, Lil Boat. Uh, so I didn't pull my copy out to show. I don't know if you have yours ready. Parental advisory on it. That's a good sign. Um, my first reaction to this was I'm not really sure. But then I blew the album up and looked at it closer in the cover, and pretty cool. I'm okay with it. It's it's a dude in overalls in the middle of nowhere, life preserver saving no one, and parental advisory. Greatest of all time, 100 greatest. I'd at least put it in the conversation. So we'll give him a half on this one. You?
Nothing against Lil Yachty. I don't listen to his music. I am familiar with it. I've heard a lot of his songs. It's not my thing. It's not my genre, but I actually agree that this is a really good album cover. I don't think this is one. I know he's a more current artist, and I don't think this is an inclusion that was just to kind of lure younger fans to the list. I do think this is a really good album cover of him sort of lost in the middle of nowhere. And then at the bottom in the border there, you'll see there's coordinates. The coordinates in real life lead to the neighborhood he grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah, which is a nice touch. So I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty cool as well. So layers. This is an onion one. There's layers
yeah.
to it. Nicely
So I
done.
actually agree. I think this is a well thought out and well constructed album cover.
I remember this. Public Image Ltd. Johnny Rotten, Johnny Now, Johnny Lydon, um, decided it was time to do something even weirder than the Sex Pistols, even more different. So he came up with Public Image Ltd, where it was the kind of the concept behind it much more than the music. Again, nothing we're considering in terms of it. I think the fact that it is actually a very difficult to open metal container for an album. We've talked a lot about Alice Cooper albums when you could fold one out to make a desk. One was kind of a cardboard box from the inside opened up. So, it kind of crosses a threshold of not standard there. So I think this is a very different approach. I can't imagine only ridiculously expensive to make, produce, and send out for the six or so metal box albums they sold. So I don't think this was a barn burner. Could be wrong. Correct us in the comments if I'm wrong. So I'm definitely okay given you know the creativity behind it. Now, if you actually dissect what that creativity was and what the thinking was, not impressed. But the fact that this kind of came up as an output of that or an outcome, I give it props. I say on the list, it deserves to be on the list. Pretty cool.
Yeah, completely agree. Deserves to be on the list. I remember as a kid, before I even knew who Public Image Limited were, and I was a Sex Pistols fan from a very young age. I don't know when exactly I was first introduced to them, but it was single digit age numbers. But I remember before I even knew Johnny Rotten's involvement with this, I remember seeing that in record stores. And while I don't necessarily think it's visually captivating or anything, because it's just their logo and printed on a metal box, it definitely caught my attention. And I mean, that's what it's supposed to do. So you can't, knock it in that sense. I mean, in that sense, it's should be on here. And I remember seeing it. And I remember friends having seen it, not knowing what it was. Um, Fun side story for, because I know so many people on the bad albums list. Martin Atkins, the drummer for Public Image Limited, runs a museum in Chicago, the Museum of Post-Punk and Industrial Music, which I've been included in. One of my songs, a song that I wrote for Pat Briggs from Psychotica, who passed away, a song that I did with my band, the Rust Belt, and Clive Deemer from Radiohead. They might come up again. Spoiler alert. um, is included. I hand cut a 7-inch of it to be included in the museum. So another spoiler, you might hear a Public Image pagan cover in the future.
There you go. I knew the record store guy by first name, so it's kind of the same. Uh, all right, tell us your thoughts. Phoebe Bridgers, Punisher.
I have no thoughts about that. I like the color scheme, but other than that, it doesn't really stand out to me.
I think anytime you're taking blatant use of children in your album cover, more of that later. But this is a little further up the age chain than some of the ones that are coming up. But slap him in the skeleton suit, put him in the desert. At least he's not burning his retinas out. The sun's not out, so that's good. So safety was in place. Um, I'm I'm not underwhelmed by this one. I found it interesting. Again, it was one that bore, kind of full viewing. Okay, that's actually not bad. So I'm a I'm a little more okay with it than you are, but it's
Yeah, maybe if I saw, so I did not look this up separately. Maybe if I saw a larger image of it, it would be better. I do like the color scheme though, but other than that, at least seeing it in a small image, it's not grabbing my attention.
Offset. The album set it off. Another parental advisory note. Always good. There you go. Um, so if they had turned it the right way, I would consider it. I cannot accept what they've done. I don't care if he's being creative. City blowing up, he's getting shot into the sky. It's oriented the wrong way for me. I don't care if he's trying to be artistic or not. So I don't deserve it. I don't think it deserves to be on the list because it fights the laws of physics and it annoys me. Your thoughts?
I mean, I get it. Like he's being blown off of the world as far as the orientation of it.
I guess he's in
I've just
Australia. That's it. He's in Australia. So okay.
he's just falling.
Yeah.
Um, I I've seen similar this kind of like falling off of something or falling through water and different like I just feel like I've seen this image before. This is fine. It's he's dressed like Michael Jackson, which I don't necessarily understand, but I'm not a big Offset fan. This is one of those albums that I feel like was maybe included to include music that the younger folk might listen to. Not that it's bad, just that I don't think there's anything iconic. And for an album that's this recent, it hasn't stood the test of time yet.
And if you can construct a sentence that is Leo Sayer did it similarly, not going to make the list. So,
That's true.
okay. This is wheelhouse for you. Uh, parental advisory again. Um, Rain and Blood, Slayer. Your thoughts?
So this goes to one of the things I was saying earlier, where I think sometimes there are albums that are included on here just because of they're iconic, culturally significant albums. Rain and Blood, for a lot of people, this is their introduction to thrash metal. This is one of those albums that was hugely commercially successful. Critics love it, fans love it. It's just kind of universally praised. Um, it for some reason says that it was released in 2002, which is not correct. And here just let everybody know this came out in the 80s. Plus, I love Slayer. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not biased. Gary Holt from Slayer appeared in a Pagan promo video. He also introduced me in my inauguration video when I was mayor of Hell.
what's up, everybody? This is Gary Holt from Exodus and recently retired from Slayer, and I want to introduce you to the mayor of Hell, Michigan on 420. I want to visit a town called Hell. Actually, I live in it every day. His name is Michael, and he's the mayor, so obey, do what he says, give him all your money, and buy him a beer. But anyway, Michael for mayor. Let's make that shit permanent.
So I'm not going to hide our ties to Slayer or pretend that I'm not biased in this. But I mean, this is an iconic classic album. I actually think Slayer has better album covers, though. I think that this was included just because it's Rain and Blood and it's such an important album.
Yeah, and I am all for, goat people. Anytime you want to incorporate them, I'm thumbs up on goat people. But goat people have been done better than this. I just, you think about um, Dante's Inferno, the painting of Dante's Inferno kind of stuff. Uh, I think that aesthetic, the colors were a little brighter. This is pretty muddy for me. So I think you're right that this maybe has a lot more to do with the impact of the album than the cover itself, but it rides along. I will argue to the death with you on one coming up much further down the road that while it was a highly influential album, it still is a great cover, even if you disagree. So just put that in your pipe and keep it for probably 2 episodes because it's in the top. But more on that one later. But yeah, I'm not buying this one. I'm not buying this one at all. This is Slint, Spiderland. No spiders on the cover, which, I'm not a literalist, but maybe one of these guys has a spider tattoo. I don't know. We can't tell. But I'm glad that, they're not at waist depth because I don't need to see these clowns in black and white. I'm sure they're nice people, but this looks like a snapshot from a drinking trip, a canoe trip. And so I don't think that makes it a great album cover.
No, and I'm not familiar with this album at all. So I have to question, it's not newer. So I have to question if this is one of those, this was an important album and this is why it's included because there's visually nothing going on here. It's a picture of, I assume, the band neck deep in a pond or something.
Yeah, and in their description, they talk about that mix of youthful exuberance and youthful aloneness. I see neither in this. Guy in the back is approaching exuberance. Maybe the guy on the far left, mild exuberance. A couple other guys are barely awake, and they're not alone. So another strike for Rolling Stone. Sorry, guys. Um, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Lauryn Hill. Mike?
So this is one of those included because it's such a big, iconic, important album. This is the only solo studio album from Lauryn Hill of the Fugees. It was a gigantic commercial success. Critics loved it. It won lots of awards and stuff like that. If you want to hear about the recording of it, we actually had the Rough House Records entire team here in my home studio, and it's on Loud and Loaded. It's like 3 hours of us talking. So you can hear all about the making of the album and stuff. And I recorded a cover of a Fuji song, which you can listen to now on the YouTube that all the kids like, that you're already on watching this. Might as well like and subscribe while you're on it. All of that being said, I actually don't like this album cover. I think it's been done better by Alice Cooper.
That's what I was going to say. They got it half right. You definitely need to put a school desk album at 92. Dead on, Rolling Stone, Mr. Stone. But Roland, can I call you Roland? Just first name basis. School's out. Should have been here instead. Because this album doesn't turn into a desk.
No.
So there you go. This album didn't have Alice Cooper trading cards. Okay. Cheap Thrills, Big Brother and the Holding Company. So another iconic album. Um, 1968. So I guess in 1968 we excuse racist stereotypical imagery that they managed to work into two panels in this one there, and so uh, wow, choices were made in the past that are wow. So that alone was a kind of a deal killer for me. Had they decided not to be racist on a couple of the slides, maybe I'd still consider it on the list. But and this, this has got that vibe. Somewhere between kind of the Mad magazine and well, it's a Robert R. Crumb drawing, so it's his kind of aesthetic, which I've never been a fan of either. So for all that, I'm saying I'm kicking this one off the list too.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a famous album cover. I've definitely seen it before. Um, I I'll just I mean, there's nothing I can add that Kelly hasn't already said other than there are other albums that do the comic panel art thing and do it better.
Without blackface. All right, so Annie DeFranco, up, up. I'd like to, I'd like to be the interviewer. Just tell me about your album, up. Making sure it gets them all in. But anyway, your thoughts on up, up.
I have no idea why this is on here. Annie DeFranco belongs on almost any list. There was a period in the 90s where like angsty female driven singer-songwriter projects were like a big deal. And I would say Annie DeFranco's album Dilate is the absolute best of that era of music. I'm a big fan of hers. She also made one of my all-time favorite live albums, Living in Clip. She has a bunch of great albums, a bunch of great album covers. I would say that Dilate is an iconic album cover of that mid 90s era. And they went with this one for some reason. So again, I have to think that the writers or editor behind this was like, I'm a fan of this album. So this is the one we're going to include.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Also, too, I guess you couldn't use it now. Uh, but in the 90s, I went to one of her shows, got a t-shirt, and I went to a bunch of different schools, but mostly Catholic schools. So we had to wear uniforms, and I had to particularly bundle up because I had piercings and tattoos, which you're going to hell if you even knew I had piercings and tattoos as a kid. Um, so I had to really bundle up in school, but we would get these dress down days every once in a while. And my trick was to wear my Annie DeFranco t-shirt because it made me seem sensitive. And I every time got tons of girls that I have never seen in my life coming up to me and talking to me. Worked out beautifully. I'm sure that's not what Annie DeFranco intended. It's not what I intended when I bought the shirt either. It was just a nice, bonus.
Yeah, and you're not going to hell for tattoos and piercings, but you're going to hell. Anyway, on to the next one. Silk the Shocker, charge it to the game. Um, I mean, this is when we were on the Bad album cover. There, you had talked a lot about a certain aesthetic to to this genre of music, and this seems to be all about that. So I'm probably not in the target demographic for this album. So it's kind of maybe not immediately speak to me. Uh, I do not find it does not belong on a worst list to me, but I'm not sure, and this might just be a Midwest guy, but I'm not seeing this one on the greatest albums, especially since there's no Alice Cooper albums on here. A theme we'll keep coming back to. But um, so I'm kicking this one off the list too.
So this cover was done by the graphic design company Pen and Pixel. If you listen to rap music in the 90s, you bought an album with a Pen and Pixel album cover. they became known for these putting as many weird, garish, awkward Photoshop things into covers. It became what they were known for, to where artists would go to them just to try and outdo the last album that they had done, just to make it more ridiculous, less realistic looking, or whatever they could do to it. It became a thing. And other companies started copying this style. And it became a thing for a long time. I understand including a pen and pixel album cover just because, again, there was a whole decade that they dominated this genre of music with this look, but I don't know why it's this one. This is actually for them kind of more tame. I would have gone with Snoop Dogg's album that they did the cover for, which has him with a terrible Photoshop mansion behind him and dogs with like diamond studded collars and things like that. Just absolutely ridiculous and over the top. This one's a little too tame for me, but I get including a pen and pixel album cover just because that was a thing.
Fair enough. So, your thoughts on Neil Young in a spiffy pair of white pants on the beach?
Hey, not the biggest Neil Young fan. I think his album covers are fine. I don't think there's any that have really, to me, been iconic in my eyes. This is definitely not one. And this does look different than the other Neil Young album covers I've seen. So I guess if you're a fan, it stands out in that sense. And I've never listened to this album as far as I know, so maybe this makes sense in the context of the music as well. But if I saw this, I wouldn't know it was Neil Young, but I also wouldn't pick it up.
Yeah, so it's 1974. It's kind of Nixon era, so that's going on. Neil had just gotten divorced. His last album didn't do real well. So this is how he expressed. So I like the fact that there's a car buried. I think that that's kind of a cool little motif, but the rest of it feels a little too Sherbert-y for me. And I do not want Neil Young in that outfit. Not my Neil Young, and I'm not the biggest Neil Young fan. We all know Shaq is the biggest Neil Young fan, but I am a fan of his. So we'll see on that. But yeah, I'm it's definitely different. I'd stop if I was going through a record store if they still existed. I'd stop for a moment to kind of go, what's this all about? Uh, so, I mean, some cred for that. So I think even at 88, too high up on the list if it was going to be included, but I'm not prepared to fully kick it off, but I'm going to make sure it knows where the door's at. Uh, okay. Devo's debut album. Q, Are We Not Men? Answer, We Are Devo. I guess I should have stuck with A, We Are Devo to stay true to but it's a Q&A format, you know. Um, the Are We Not Men album, the Devo, first Devo album. Your thoughts, sir?
I mean, I like Devo. Who doesn't like Devo? Um, I'm not a huge fan of yellow as a color on things, but I get it. Like, I do think that this encapsulates that weirdness of Devo. I'm not sure how to quite put my finger on explaining it. You could probably articulate it better than I could. So I do think it feels like a Devo album. I don't know that I would put this on my top 100 album covers though. You?
So this is where I struggle because when I see album covers of bands I really, really like, and I said, "Good for you, you made the list." I want to stand up for them. Um, it's probably one of my least favorite Devo covers of their albums. The backstory on it was that when they were trying to figure out their first cover, not wanting to put in a lot of work, they said, "Look, we found this set of golf balls with Chichi Rodriguez's face on it. Let's do that. Just put that on the cover." And they were like, "There's like legal stuff. You can't do that." So they mashed up. They said four presidents' faces, which I don't really see because I don't know of any president that has any of those facial features. But um, they mocked it up enough so that it wasn't. He still got his hat, so it's Chi at this point. But I'm also not a fan of yellow. So it is a pretty icon. I mean, it is so strongly associated with Devo, and not just because the letters are big and on the side. It is it is clearly there. So it does have this kind of iconic thing to it. Um, so I'm gonna pass on saying whether it should get kicked off the list. But it is my least favorite Devo cover. So there's that. Okay. Frank Ocean Blonde. So again, not a literalist, but he's barely blonde in this.
He's not
So
blonde at all. His hair is green in this.
it's green. I think there might be some yellow. Maybe he was blonde and then dyed it green. I thought maybe not. I thought there were maybe just hints of some blonde underneath the green. But but clearly uh not accurate labeling. And so and he's sad and I just this one doesn't do much for me. So this is a kick it off the list for me.
This to me is one of those. This is a really big, important album, so it's on the list. And I, as an album, I totally agree. I do, as a music fan and somebody who's interested in the history of music and things like this is a super important album. Frank Ocean made a huge, huge financial deal with Apple to release his new album exclusively through Apple. And it turned out to be a visual album of him. I don't want to give it away, but it's weird and avant-garde experimental video that he turned in for this big seven-figure deal that he did with Apple. And then the very next day after it's released, he self-released Blonde, a proper studio album with huge hit songs on it that were absolutely radio ready. And the big story became about how Frank Ocean basically scammed Apple out of millions of dollars. So its cultural impact on the industry was big because it pretty much killed. There was a period of time in the 2010s where every streaming platform to get you to subscribe to them were throwing millions of dollars at artists to get exclusive projects from them. It ended here when this happened because they realized like, oh, somebody could just do that. Okay, we're never doing this again.
You keeping it on the list?
No, I don't love the cover. I think it's on there because it's such an important and iconic album.
So your thoughts on Minor Threat
So
cover,
Minor
the
Threat,
album cover.
the album Minor Threat is an important band. This is a big important album. I actually do agree with this being on there though. It is an iconic album cover of Ian MacKaye with his head in his arms, bent over the stairs. This has been recreated by dozens of bands. The most famous one would be Rancid on their album And Out Come the Wolves. But this is dozens and dozens of bands have recreated this for album art and shirts and merchandise and things like that. So it's super iconic. It should probably be on the list.
I just envision him as Leonard Cohen's son, who'd be in this position in black and white all the time too. I think it's a great cover. I think it kind of says a lot by saying a little. It's just really well done. Uh, Good choice to go black and white with it. The typography is cool um, for this type of thing. So you got one right, Mr. Stone. Nicely done. Oh, we stayed in black and white. We go to Jay-Z with the blueprint. This apparently is a lecture. This going on as a photo from a lecture. Uh, it's interesting. Um, I can I can be okay with it being on the top 100. I think it's just I'm always well done black and white stuff. I'm kind of a fan of that usually, so that probably helps sway me a little bit. But so I'm okay with this one.
Yeah, I don't love Jay-Z's album covers because they're usually just a photo of him, just like different photos of him. So there is a little more suggested going on in this one than there usually is in his album covers. It is a famous album. It's not reading in this tiny version of the image, but it's actually blue and white to go
Oh,
with the
okay.
blueprint title. It's just not reading in this small
I'm
image like
almost as
this.
big a blue and white fan as I am black and white. Just so you know.
But yeah, it does have a blue tint to it, the actual album cover. I don't know if I would put it top 100. I do think it's his best album cover though, because again, they tend to just be a different photo of him on each album.
Oh, your favorite. So Taylor Swift. This is a purple and white, right? So, so Taylor in a jacket in a forest. Your thoughts?
So this caused quite a kerfuffle in the heavy metal community when it was released. So this album looks, if you didn't know this was Taylor Swift, it is very indicative of particularly Norwegian black metal albums. These kind of stark black and white images of sun and fog through trees are very, very prominent on album covers by multiple bands. In particular, this raised some eyebrows because this exact image looks like it was taken from a album cover that I'll send you so that we can include it on here. Solo EP, I believe it was, from the singer of Emperor, that looks identical to this. And he pointed it out very quickly when this album was released. He put a side by side on his Instagram. It was like, if you take the album title off of his, you would not know these were two different images. And the guy who did his album cover was like, Taylor Swift didn't even call me. I would have done it for probably way less what she was charged for this album cover. So it seemed like she was trying to emulate Norwegian black metal aesthetics with it, which is odd for Taylor Swift. So I don't know if this album is any good, but it's intentionally, and it's definitely intentional, whether it was her idea or the designer's idea. It's so close to the other album cover. It's obviously an intentional reference to it. So to me, that doesn't make top 100 when you're intentionally copying something else.
With the original?
I'll also probably not, to be honest with you, because this style is very prominent in Norwegian black metal music.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've listened to Folklore, but I'm pretty confident there are a couple Norwegian black metal covers on it. So you may just need to slow your roll a little there.
Yeah,
So
that's probably. And again, I don't know if Taylor Swift had any idea that I don't know if she ever commented on it, but most major music sites and magazines had extensive articles about it when the album came out.
okay. Shakira, um, where are the thieves? I'm not going to try the Spanish.
I was waiting to see if you'd give it a shot.
¿Dónde están los? I'm going to stop there because I'm not ladrones. ¿Dónde están los ladrones? I don't know. But where are the thieves? Talk American, Shakira. Come on. Uh, I'm I'm at a loss on this one. Gay, your hands are dirty. There's an little artistic statement there. This is, when she washes her hands, she's got a high school photo for me on this album cover. I mean, it's or a kind of upscale DMV maybe. So not an unpleasant cover by any stretch of the imagination. But if Mr. Stone's putting together the 100 greatest covers of all time, I'm surprised this one made the list.
Yeah, I have to feel like this is included because they wanted to include Shakira on the list. She's a, very successful, very influential artist. I don't speak Spanish, so I wouldn't have even given a shot at this, which is funny because my most popular song is a Spanish language song, but I don't speak Spanish at all. This is just a picture of Shakira, though. like Kelly said, her hands are dirty. I get it. I get but like, it's just a picture of Shakira. Like, there's nothing else going on in here.
Oh, and pictures of Shakira are very nice, but
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
yeah. But I mean, to include it in the top 100 album covers, I think they just wanted to include Shakira on it.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Okay. Raise your fist and yell. What do you think about? No, I'm sorry. King Crimson in the court of the Crimson King. You get to start on this one, sir.
I mean, so I don't like it in that raise your fist and and yell kind of art style way. I do think this is better than that. It does grab your attention. I remember seeing this album cover long ago and it's sticking with me. So I mean, it does its job. Top 100 album covers though, not I wouldn't include it.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, King Crimson fan here. Particularly the kind of weird variant that came out with Adrian Belew and Robert Fripp and Tony Levin. They did kind of a trilogy of albums um, that I really enjoyed quite a bit. Uh, so I'm pulling for them. Glad they're on the list. This is, Raise Your Fist and Yell done right. I'll agree 100%. This is significantly better than Raise Your Fist and Yell. Um, it's creepy, but 21st Century Schizoid Man is on there, and allegedly the band looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's him." so, so it ties to the music pretty well. It is definitely a striking one. So, um, I think it would have been fair to have it in the conversation. I'm not sure I'd included it on the list, but um, I like King Crimson. So. I can't separate myself from that sometimes. So, Ways Blood. I'm not familiar with this artist, so I hope I said that name correctly. Titanic Rising. This is a piece of crap cover, as far as I'm concerned. You can put it underwater. It's still a piece of crap cover. So, not a fan. Don't think it belongs on the list. Actually, think it could have belonged on the other list we went through of worst album covers. Uh, so that's what I think.
So I don't feel as strongly negative about it as Kelly does, but I have to imagine this is one of those inclusions because of the album, because this is not anything great on the album cover here. So I don't hate it the way that Kelly does, but it's instantly forgettable. I get it, the underwater thing, but nah,
I don't
this
hate
has
it.
to be included for the album.
I don't hate it. I'm just remarkably unimpressed. So, Lil Wayne, um, there's I'm not even gonna try the title, but it's Carter 3, Carter the third.
It's the Carter 3. It's part of his Carter album series that he done. So we talked a lot on the last list, and this will come up again on this list. There was a law that was passed at some point where major labels had to put out album covers with babies on them. I don't know exactly when the law was passed, but it went super hard throughout the 80s and 90s. You could go into any record store on record release day, and there was some album with a baby on the album cover. I will say that I think this is one of the absolute best that have done it. If you're going to insist on this aesthetic, which again, I have no problem, babies are fine, but I don't understand why they're on all these album covers. I don't get it. I don't like it. But if you're going to do it, doing this baby picture of him with his actual tattoos photoshopped onto the baby picture, this kind of Sears posed baby picture thing is how you should do it. So this is one of the best examples of an aesthetic that I do not like and do not understand.
So I agree on the aesthetic. Agree that it was overused, but I kind of love this album cover. I really do. The expression, the pinky ring, the tats. It's the suit. I like it. I like it a lot. And so I'm happy to keep it on the list because I just makes me smile. It's a great album cover.
Yeah, this is the absolute best use of a baby on an album cover. I still don't like that thing, and I don't understand why it's a thing, the babies on album covers thing, but if you have to do it, Lil Wayne did it the best.
And the good news is Trump will overrule that. He'll toss that law out. So you're great. Pretty big shift here. From We're going into glam territory. New York Dolls, original or first album, New York Dolls. David Johansen in there somewhere. So, your thoughts on the New York Dolls cover?
I'm a big David Johansen fan all around, from New York Dolls to the Buster Poindexter novelty hit that he
Mm.
had to especially all of his acting stuff. I actually it's hard because it all kind of came around the same time, but I think I was introduced to him through his acting roles first. Because I remember seeing him in a string of movies within a short span of time. He was in Tales from the Dark Side, he was in Scrooged, Free Jack, and a few other things, all within like a 1 or 2 year period. And right around that time is when I had seen the Hot 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 video and discovered New York Dolls and was amazed that these are all the same person across them. So I'm a big fan. That being said, I mean, I love the logo and the idea of the lipstick writing the logo. Beyond that, though, it is just a picture of the band, so I'm kind of torn on it because I really like Kelly was saying with King Crimson. I really like the band and I really like the logo, but beyond that, it's just a band photo. Your thoughts, sir?
Pretty much aligned with you. I think the logo works fantastic for the New York Dolls on like multiple levels. This isn't, to me, any superior than the back cover of Easy Action, which was very similar androgynous photo of the Alice Cooper group, with Alice with at that point kind of a blonde brown hair, which is not a good thing he went to the black hair. Alice made some right choices in his career. Um, I don't think it's vastly superior to that in any respect. So I'm a fan of the New York Dolls. I think this one's kind of lazy. Um, so the Smiths, the Queen is dead, done in pink, green, and black and white. So it's monochromatic a little bit ish, at least high contrast if nothing else. Um, Mildly artistic, but when you basically look like you could have been an advertisement for Dark Shadows, I'm not sure that puts you on the top 100 albums of all time. So I'm going to say nothing wrong with this album cover, but I'm not seeing it on this list. I mean, I am seeing it on the list, but I don't agree that it should be on the list. Your thoughts?
I agree with you. So, like probably most people, my thoughts on the Smiths are that I really enjoy their music and don't like Morrissey. I think that's probably where most people fall. This album cover is not anything special in my opinion. It's also just a still from a movie that they didn't have anything to do with. So it's just a found image, which to me should kind of disqualify it from this, regardless of whatever their intentions were with using it. This is a list of best album covers. So to me, it should kind of be original art. The same reason the Taylor Swift thing should be disqualified. I don't think she was trying to rip it off. It's obviously an homage to Norwegian music, but it's copying something else. This is literally just taking a found image and putting your logo on it.
So, kind of staying in the same vein here. Tyler, the creator, Igor, if you're Mel Brooks, I guess, but um, so typewriter font on the bottom, minimalist overall. So As an artistic execution, I give it a thumbs up, in terms of kind of a cool idea, interesting, but this isn't the top 1,000 interesting album covers of all time. This is the top 100 greatest albums and covers of all time, and I'm not feeling it. So so that's what I think.
I like Tyler the Creator. I like this album, but I do think this is an example of them wanting to put Tyler the Creator on there. And this is an album that a lot of critics liked, so this is the one that they went with. I don't think this is any better than his other album covers. I don't think it's the greatest or one of the greatest album covers. As much as I really like Tyler the Creator as an artist, and I do like this album, so I do like that pink color as well. But again, this is a picture of Tyler the Creator with a pink background.
And typewriter font.
Yeah.
So Radiohead, you mentioned them a little earlier. Yeah, so let you kick this one off.
I did a song with Radiohead's drummer. It's in the museum that's owned by Public Image Limited's drummer.
Timestamp being shown below.
Um, honestly, so I'm a huge Clive Deemer fan, but it's actually, and nothing against Radiohead, my fandom of him is for Portishead. He's in two bands with head in the name. Um, Portishead is the band that I really know him from. He also played drums as a session drummer for a lot of other and touring member of a lot of other bands, including Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees and things like that. So that's really where my in with that is. I like some of Radiohead's music, but I mean, they're a band that's like Tool, where they're very divisive for a lot of people, and their hardcore fans are just rabid about them. So my in with them though just comes from a completely different direction. I do think that the album cover is fine, but I think that this is something where you could, to a Radiohead fan, every Radiohead album should be on here. Just like to a Tool fan, it would be every album. So as somebody who appreciates them in a different way, I'm kind of indifferent to this album cover.
So side note, um, I know I've stalled out a little bit on us getting my EP ready to go out, but you think I'm going to run into any problems if I decide to release it under the name Tool,
No, you'll be fine.
spelled my way,
Yeah, spelled your-
spelled the right way?
you should call it Tool and then parenthetical next to it spelled my way.
Yeah, that might be putting a target on my back if I do that. Yeah, so I think again a pretty cool execution, but I'm gonna keep it off the greatest album covers, top 100 album covers for one reason only, because my initial reaction to this, as I just kind of caught it for a second, was that this is my point of view if I'm attending a Klan rally. And, and the contrast has been pulled back. Now, I have no point of reference to be able to say that's exactly what it would look like, but I'm going to assume if I was at a Klan rally and they were parading somewhere and I was towards the back, it would look something like this. That's just me. But, so for that reason,
Some some Radiohead fan is so bad right now watching this.
I mean, look at it. Yeah, you can see that. Anyway. Okay, Blur Park Life. Now, I know nothing about Blur. I know nothing about the album Park Life, but I am going to buy this album tomorrow because I love this album cover. The dogs are so happy, the greyhounds. Um, I just, I love it. I think it's so great. The composition's good. Uh, they're such cute little boys. It's just awesome. I love the album cover. The font works great on it too. So I agree 100% with Rolling Stone that this should be on the top list because I love this album cover.
Yeah, I actually agree as well. I think this should be on here. Blur is a much bigger band in the UK than they are here. But they did have a giant hit here with a song called Song 2. You might not know the title, but if you listen to the song, Kelly, you would recognize it. If you heard it, it was a big hit here. It's just oddly titled. Um, they're better known here because their singer is also the singer of the band Gorillaz, which is probably how he's better known in the US.
Gotcha. Just thumbs up on this album cover. So good.
Yeah,
Should
I
have
like
been
it. It should be on here.
should be higher. Should be higher. Should be in the top 10. Um, so it's Willie Nelson, Redheaded Stranger. Uh, your thoughts, sir?
I kind of like Willie Nelson. I'm not super familiar with his whole catalog, but the stuff I know, I'm fine with. I don't really like this album cover. It looks like an old time photo booth photo that you would get like at the shore on the boardwalk kind of thing.
Or at
But
your
not
arcade if you'd ever
or in
listened to
my
me.
yeah, if I, or in my house. But not like one of the high end ones, like one of the cheaper ones.
It should be like the one you'd have. So yeah, we're always totally, disconnecting our whether we like or dislike the group or what we think about the albums, and it's just the covers that we're talking about. We can create that emotional distance without a problem. But I've like never like done, I'm not pulling for Willie Nelson to be on this list, and certainly not. I think there's nothing in this cover that would do it. There's a Captain Beefheart album um, called Strictly Guaranteed that uh, harkens to this. By the way, folks, not on this list, but at some point on one of these shows, you're going to be hearing more about Captain Beefheart. But there were elements of it that were there that call back to this. But yeah, this is the old timey wanted poster thing. Not done particularly creatively. Don't see it on the list. Kind of feels like it's a courtesy wave to Mr. Nelson. Billie Eilish, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Super creepy cover. Really got the eyes whited out. So I think it's kind of cool. And because it would stop me dead in my tracks. Again, if we were at unearthed the archaeological site and found a record store and were able to clear the sand away and walk through the aisles, and one of these was sitting on there, I'd stop. I would be stopped dead in my tracks when I saw this cover. Um, so think it could be on the list. Wouldn't argue it being on the list. I think it's well done.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't particularly love the album cover. I do think it grabs your attention. I like Billie Eilish, but I do think they included this to include a Billie Eilish album on there because again, she's a more current artist who's very popular right now. And that's not to take anything away from her. Again, I like Billie Eilish, so and I do think this is a good album cover. I do wonder though, like if this were an older album and she wasn't maybe as relevant as she is right now, would they have included this on the list?
We'll never know. All right. Um, FKA Twigs LP1. Why don't you talk about this? Because I don't know what to say.
So again, this is another, I think it was included because she's a talked about person. She's been in the news a lot. Unfortunately, I guess not so much for her music, more for other stuff, which you could read about. Um, I'm not a particular fan of her music, and I actually actively dislike this image. I don't think it's appealing to look at. However, I do remember when I originally saw it, and then anytime I see it, like I instantly know what this is. So I guess in that sense, it is effective.
If I were a FKA Twigs fan, uh, a passionate one, as passionate as I am about Alice Cooper, this would be her raise your fist and yell for me. It would be the album cover that might make me stop buying her albums for a while, which is what Raise Your Fist and Yell did to me. And so I do find it, and sometimes, a disturbing cover is a great cover because it could, I think, go back to Billie Eilish a little bit. That's got a certain level of shock value to it, but this is just unpleasant to me. So doesn't belong on the list. Oh, here we go again. So in that vein, Grace Jones, highly angular Grace Jones, nightclubbing, um, striking cover, hard to miss it, going to get your attention, or to, kind of, it's got an aesthetic to it. So I think if you're going through, I mean, another one that I'd say should have been in the conversation, should have belonged. So let's talk through these. What are we thinking? Oh, this one could be, but then it's like, just didn't make it. I think it belongs. It doesn't belong in any other conversation other than this is strong, but just didn't quite make it. Would be my thought.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it comes there is an aesthetic to it, and I don't dislike it, but in the at the end of the day, this is just a picture of Grace Jones. And I'm not knocking the aesthetic or Grace Jones as an artist or anything like that. I'm actually a big fan of hers because of the movie Vamp.
Mhm.
So I like Grace Jones. Nothing against this album or her or anything like that. There's just not a lot going on with it once you get it's a good photo and an interesting color choice. And once you get past that though, it's a picture of Grace Jones.
Alrighty. REM Murmur. Your thoughts?
Do you like REM?
No.
Your response is exactly mine when I think that. Like I'm like, no.
No.
That's my response to it. And that's kind of my response to their album covers as well. Like this isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with it. Should it be on this list? Probably not.
Yep, I think that's my exact response too. So my reaction to your questions, my reaction to should it be on the list, which is like, no, no. And last one for this show, back to infant models. So we're Van Halen 1984. Apparently they had an idea for it, which was going to be like four chrome dancers, and the artist that worked on it say, too many reflections, not going to do it. Come up with another idea. And they came across this beauty, chain smoking angel, baby angel, chain smoking baby angel, which I think is, I'm going to separate what I think about Van Halen, uh, and what I think about potentially this album, and kind of go chain smoking baby angel, pretty creative, well executed. Um, Little hand holding the cigarette, just great, nicely done. So I think a little high on the list for me, but I certainly could see why this could be on the top 100. Um, and so, yeah, that's where I'm at. I know you've got like a baby problem, so we'll see how it goes for you.
Yeah. I again hate this aesthetic. This is the second Van Halen album with a baby on the cover that we've looked at, because their other one was on the worst album covers list with Balance. And I should throw, while I had no problems with Balance as an album, I'm going to throw out that I hate this album. On top of that, this is when Van Halen introduced synthesizers. I don't care that they introduced synthesizers because I'm not a huge Van Halen fan. So this isn't I'm not one of those Van Halen fans who like felt personally attacked by them changing their sound. That's not what it is. I'm a synthesizer player. Like a lot of other bands who included synthesizers in the 80s, they did it in a really heavy-handed way that I think gave synthesizers a bad rap. So as a synthesizer player, This is not a good example of that. And I know there's a lot of people are gonna be like, Eddie Van Halen was a great piano player. It's not the same thing. So you can't, just because you're a good guitar player or can play piano or something doesn't make you a good synthesizer player. This has been when we've reviewed, even when we did Alice reviews, I was very critical of the synth playing when he introduced it to it because I play synthesizer. So it is not well done on this album. And this album, probably more than most, gave synthesizers a bad reputation in more rock oriented music.
Well, as an angel who chain smokes, I can say I'm okay with this cover. So, so you can team synthesizer, no. Team chain smoking angel, yes. So we're there. And that's where we're going to stop, folks, for this one. Two more of these episodes coming up. Let us know in the comments how thrilled you are with some of our assessments, and argue back with us on some things. As we mentioned earlier, we're probably going to be right and you're going to be wrong, but we actually would have liked to hear from you. And we have, people have turned us around on a few things, but they're not going to turn me around on a couple of these album covers. Especially not the Greyhounds. I love Greyhounds. Don't you be talking about Blur's album cover with anything except huge positive terms. So, but we would like to hear from you. If you've got particularly some things that you're disappointed haven't showed up yet, maybe they're showing up later. We don't know. Tune back in. Best way to tune back in is to like and subscribe. Hit that bell to the Bog Panda YouTube channel, home of Hard No, the world's shortest podcast, less than 1 minute in length, published daily. You can also check out our merchandise store where there's t-shirts. I don't know if there's going to be not a baby guy on there for Mike, but it's tempting at this point. Uh, we'll see on that, but there are other fun ones out there, so check it out. It's a gift your loved ones will appreciate. And anything else before we wrap this one? Oh yes, we
I was
each
about
have
to say, yeah.
each episode, in addition bonus content, we're going to offer up. So you're going to get three of these, folks, at least three. Although it sounds like Mike might be loaded for like 7, 10 per show. But I'm I'm going with what was originally planned, which is I have one to share that of an album cover that we know is not on this list that we feel should have been on this list. And so, since you love your props and you probably can't contain yourself any longer, are there like 20 of these? How many am I going to get tonight? Just checking.
There's just going to be one, although I might sneak in a second recommendation.
Yeah. So you're saying two? Just say
No, just
two.
one,
Just say
just
no.
one, just one with a footnote.
So that's two. Go ahead. Show your one, and then we're gonna just cut your fee.
So I'm going with The White Room from KLF. We talked about KLF before. We did a prisoner exchange. I suggested their compilation album, Solid State Logic, to Kelly. It would have been this album, but this album is no longer in print intentionally. The band pulled it. This was their most commercially successful full length album that they did. Um, Essentially, Solid State Logic is this album. It's almost entirely this album. There's a few songs that aren't on there that are pulled from other projects, but this is their best known album they done. This album cover, I remember seeing it as a kid, and it's stuck with me ever since then. It's a very stark white background with a little bit of a blue light tint around it. There are two PA speakers stacked on top of each other, one of which has a broken speaker cone with wires hanging out of it. It's very simple. There's not a lot going on, but it really stuck with me. I love it. I love the album. And another thing that really stuck with me is the font that's on here. It's just a basic color impact font, and I use that all the time in album artwork. Just impact font, one solid color. And I brought it on. It's not a second album
No.
because
How would anyone think that? How would anyone think that?
no, it's definitely not. And I'm humble. You know that,
Yeah,
Kevin. So
we've kind of proven that through this show. You're
I would
remiss to
never,
bring up.
yeah, I would never recommend something that I had a part in.
No.
So this is not This is not officially on the list.
Yeah.
It's just to point out
So
the
let
tie.
me get this straight. So this isn't a sec. As you hold up the second album cover, it's not
It's not.
the second
It's not.
album cover,
Right.
and by the fact that it's the Rust Belt spoiler, folks coming in, a
You
band
see
that
it?
you're a part of, you're not self promoting. Go ahead.
No. I would say though, if I was going to do that, I think this is a fantastic album cover of an overgrown train track here. Kelly's actually been here. We passed by here when we were in Cape May. They cleaned it up since then. I took this picture on a cell phone right behind the house there. Which I ironically Cape May is not in the Rust Belt. I do live in the Rust Belt, but this is not. But on the back of it, this is why I bring it up. On the back of it, you can see solid color impact font. I use this on almost every release, and it comes directly from the KLF album.
Okay.
But as long as we're at it, you guys should go listen to the Rust Belt.
We'll put a link in the description to Mike's non promotion. All right. So we're going to see how this works, folks. You see that?
I do.
Tonio K. La Bamba, his EP that came out after he had done Life in the Food Chain, greatest album of all time, followed by America, greatest album of all time. And then came La Bamba, which was an EP. And La Bamba, Mars Needs Women, is on there, which is a great song. Maybe you should apply, the subtext to it. Really good song. La Bamba is of the DNA of the La Bamba, you folks probably all know from Ricky Valens, but it's about nuclear holocaust. Not being a fan of it, Tonio taking a strident position to not be in favor of nuclear holocaust. But
Where do you
so
fall in nuclear holocaust, Kelly? Are
I'm
you pro
also
or con?
I am aligned with Mr. K. Not good, not good, bad thing. Um, so biased a little bit since I'm a big Tony OK fan, but I just thought, a kind of Disney-esque mushroom cloud. Gotta like it. So I've always thought that was a really good album cover.
It is very strong. I like the art style on it a lot.
Pretty cool. So I only have one because that's what we
I
were
only
supposed
had
to
one as
do.
well.
That's what we
I
were
was
supposed to
just
do.
showing the influence that that album art
Yeah.
had on me.
So why don't you send me an image of the one cover that you shared, as two separate files, so that I can make sure I'm overlaying them at that point. So that wraps up this round, folks. Two more of these to come. We said we'd like to hear from you in the comments if you enjoy suffering your way through this, learning a little bit more about Mike on every album cover. Some of his,
And
some
how
of
humble I am, and
That's
how I
right.
would never shamelessly promote my own stuff.
There you go. All right. Well, you made it to the end. Good for you. What are you doing? Anyway, get out of here. It's crazy. But we almost left. But we do appreciate you sticking with us, and I hope you come back for another round because it's pretty fun doing it, and it's even more enjoyable for us when we hear from you around places you thought were way off base, places you agree, or other things to consider. Maybe sharing your thoughts about, is Mike a self-promoting, self-centered individual, corporate shill? Forgot corporate shill, which
Doesn't
is he is
doesn't sound like me.
the corporate shill of Bog Panda. So that's been documented. And on that note, thanks for watching, folks.
I'm a humble, small town independent artist. Go listen to the Rust Belt from Universal and Virgin Records.
Corporate shill.
Bog Panda.